guess, welcome back. Last time we were talking about, we focused more on your relationship with your mom, how that was, and how she's getting older, she hasn't made the best financial decisions, and trying to find her a job, a better job, at least one that she can work full-time, because right now she just works part-time. It seems like every time, you try and come up with something, come up with an idea, she doesn't follow through with it.
Sounds about right, yeah.
So did you have anything new to share this week?
Well, I've actually, since we've met last, I actually have willingly volunteered to go to her house and spend some time with her helping. She has been painting the inside of her house, and so she asked initially if I could help, and I told her I couldn't in the time frame she asked for, but I told her that following weekend that I'd be able to, so not yesterday, but last weekend. I went over for several hours and helped paint and was trying to be a daughter and help her since she asked, and so I did that. We got along fine. We didn't interact a whole lot since she was in another room doing something else. But, so I went over there and did what I said I would do, but it was to go over there to help her with something, and she had texted me this last week, if you want to come over and help again, you always can, I've got more things to do, so it's I feel like the only time she wants to see me is if I'm going to help her accomplish a task she needs done. So that's a little much to me.
So do you feel like she's asking you over there because she needs help around the house, or do you feel like she's actually trying to find a way back into spending time with you, and that's the only way she knows how?
I feel more like I'm being used to help her find a means to an end, but in there she likes to spend time, but she's normally doing something somewhere else and I'm doing one thing somewhere else, and so we're not interacting while I'm around her. So I think that's kind of how she could think about it, I'm trying to spend time with you so you can come over and hang out and whatever, but we don't really interact much, so I don't know.
Is it hard for either of you to initiate a willingness to spend time with each other?
It's probably harder for me than it is for her, because I feel like although I've gotten better over the last several years, I don't feel like I'm as tolerant with her as I can be sometimes, because sometimes when she does things or says things, I can sometimes be short with her, and so sometimes it might come off as being a little blunt or rude maybe sometimes, but I feel like that she only wants to be around people to help her accomplish something, not because she wants to spend quality time with them so they can help her fix something, do something around her house, something that she needs done. That's what she wants people for.
Do you feel like you're losing patience with her after helping her all this time, and just feel like she's been taking advantage of you, not only you, but anybody else in your life? Is that right?
Yeah, I would say so. One thing that's happened, since we talked last is my grandpa, my mom is in her 60s, my grandpa's in his 80s, and my grandpa does a lot of things to help her out, manual labor stuff. He'll come over to her house and fix things, he'll mow her lawn, do all these things, and a couple of weekends, I think it was a couple weekends ago, he was loading his lawnmower up into the back of her truck because he got some ramps so it would make it easier to put back there, and so I didn't try to pick it up because it's a riding lawnmower. And as he was putting it in her truck to, go over there to help her take care of her lawn, it fell. And so it fell off these ramps, and my grandpa was on it, and the lawnmower fell on top of him. So he's, I guess, in his yard or driveway or whatever, he has this 84-year-old man with a lawnmower that fell on top of him. My mom can't help to do anything, and so I guess there were some neighbors that were home that came and helped and picked the lawnmower up off my grandpa, and he got up and was fine from it, I guess. He was a bit sore, but he still went over to my mom's house and mowed the lawn and weeded and did all that, instead of my mom being like, oh my gosh, no, you need to go in the house and you need to rest. She still let him do it. And so I was just like, I just was very upset when I heard about that.
It seems like your mom is trying to take advantage of the situation. Doesn't seem to have much regard for
Other people.
other people's, well-being.
Yeah, I think so sometimes. Not all the time, but definitely, like, if she's like, well, I need to get this done by this date. Or, like, the weather's gonna change, so I need this done by this time. And so it's like, she tries to, obligate people to things instead of asking them. She said, well, I need this, so I need this person and this person and this person to come over here and help with this. And she doesn't ask, she doesn't see if anybody else has other plans that they have, she's just gonna assume that people are gonna come at her beck and call.
Is that something that's typical for her when you were growing up? That she always assumed that you guys would come to her beck and call?
Well, I mean, like, growing up, or like since I've been an adult out of the house, and
Like, is it something that's one of her characters that's been persistent throughout her life, or your life, right? What you notice?
I mean, not as much with me growing up, because, as a kid, you can't do as much as adults
Right.
can, but, like, my mom was always dependent on my grandpa for something. Or my grandparents, both of them, but, like, she would always depend on them to watch us when she had to go to work. So it's like we practically lived at my grandparents' house till we actually moved in and lived there. And then my grandpa would do things like if something was broken or like the lawn things or something with her car, like he would always work at trying to fix things for her because he figured it would be cheaper for him to do it than her to take it somewhere else and get done. So.
Have you ever brought up the feelings of how she uses up people to the people that she uses as well?
Like talking to my grandpa guy?
Yeah, talking to your
Oh,
grandpa.
absolutely. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What does he have to say?
He absolutely agrees with me. However, he says that he's not just gonna like leave my mom. Like, for instance, like when like the housing crisis was really bad and a lot of people's houses were getting foreclosed on. My mom was in a real big financial bind, and he let her borrow, I don't know, kind of, I want to say it's around $1,000 or something to help with her house and to help with her truck, so she wouldn't lose them. And so he like let her borrow this money, and then she still lost her house and still lost her truck. And so he was out all that money for nothing, and my mom ended up having to move back in with him, as a 50-something adult person. Moving back in with her parents because of poor financial decisions. So, but he says that he wouldn't want his kids out on the street, so he does what he can to help.
Has your grandpa taken into consideration what's going to happen when he's gone?
Well,
If he keeps up this enabling behavior,
I don't know, but I actually brought that to his attention the other day whenever I went to visit him and talked to him about the whole lawnmower thing, and I was so upset because I'm like, you need to go to the doctor and make sure nothing's broken or cracked or anything. And he's like, oh, I'm fine. It'll be a couple of days, I'll be fine. I'm like, whatever. Because he's a very stubborn old man, because that's how old men are. But
depends, yeah, all men are.
yeah, they're set in their ways since they grew up in a different time period. But I had said to him while I was over there, with that whole situation with the lawnmower taking care of my mom and doing all these things for her, I was like, I don't want anything to happen to her anytime soon or you, but I really hope for her benefit that you outlive her. Because I don't know what life will be like for her once he dies. Because my sisters and I, with everything that we have going on in our lives, we can't just put our lives on hold to accommodate our mom and everything that she needs. And she lives, I guess, kind of, my mom lives in West Holston, one sister lives in Skytick, and one lives in Glen Polsdale, kind of live along I-75, and I live way over out by Broken Arrow by the Creek Turnpike, so I live on the opposite side of town, so it's like, none of us can get there quickly if something were to happen. So, I don't know.
You think about, taking up the slack of accommodating your mom when your grandpa does pass, or how that all is going to come about. Like, is there going to be like a meeting between the older sisters as to who's going to help out where and with what, or if anybody will move her into your house?
Oh God,
Or
no.
is it just gonna
No. My mom lived with my middle sister for a while, and that all blew up and not a good thing. So my mom is like one of those people that if she feels like she's betrayed by you at any level, whether it's, I don't know, small or big, she just kind of like cuts you off. And so like with my middle sister, like she's just like, I don't care what happens to her. What the hell is your daughter? You know? I was like, just because you guys didn't get along with you living there doesn't mean you guys can sit there and talk shit about each other. So, her and my middle sister, no, never again. They did that once, it didn't work out. And then my oldest sister is not in a position to do that. She's going through a divorce. She's going through a lot right now. She doesn't want to deal with having anybody else like living in her house. She just wants to get all this stuff over with and be able to kind of get back into her own swing of things before she moves on to any other ventures. And my mom living with me, absolutely not. I would go crazy. And my husband has already told me that's never going to be an option. So
do you feel, how do you feel about you being like the last line of defense in this sort of matter?
well, this is how I really feel. Like when my grandpa dies, I feel like, because my grandpa, like, of all, between my mom and my uncle, and then me and my two older sisters, those are who's left in our family on his side. And my grandpa said if it was up to me, he would put me in charge of everything when he dies, because he feels like I'm the most reliable, most responsible person out of those five. But he doesn't think it's fair to skip over his kids. So my uncle's in charge, but I'd rather be my uncle than my mom, even though my mom's the older, because she just can't make smart decisions, I feel like. And so, but I feel like whenever he passes away, it's left up to my mom and Uncle Mark to figure out what's going to happen with everything. And I can see my mom trying to do whatever works in her best interest, whether it's her moving into my grandpa's house because it's paid for, or them selling his house and her getting whatever money she can out of it so she can accommodate her life better.
Is your uncle at all receptive to taking any?
That's something that they've discussed. I don't know if it would actually be something that would happen because my uncle's not married. And he's kind of, slowly coming out of two bad relationships. One that ended several years ago, but then the next person he was with acted the same way, so they were both crazy people. So like he's trying to just get things back on track with himself and work. And so I don't know if that's something that he would do anytime soon, or if that's something that he's still receptive to, but that's something that has been discussed in the past, so they could, at least help each other out.
So you said that your grandpa was thinking about leaving everything to you?
No, not leaving everything to me, but leaving me in charge of everything. Like he has, I guess, what would it be called? An executioner of the estate or whatever. I don't know what the name of it is, but leaving me in charge of dealing with all the decision-making stuff, as far as like when it comes to like funeral stuff and having to, I guess execute the will or whatever. But because he feels like, or he's told me that he feels like I'm probably the most reliable, responsible person out of all of us. So, but my uncle, like I said, he's leaving it to him because he would probably be the next, I guess, most responsible, reliable person.
So do you know if he's leaving
I don't know. I don't care.
or?
It's not important to me. I think he's probably leaving or splitting everything between my mom and Uncle Mark, and then whatever they would let us, if there was something we wanted, I would think they both would be pretty receptive. I want to say that. I can't say with 100% certainty. I think my uncle would be more receptive if there were certain things we wanted, letting us have that as opposed to my mom, maybe. Sometimes I feel like she thinks that she is entitled to or deserving of certain things.
You ever talked with your grandpa about the details of his will and maybe sort of advise him where to throw his assets?
No, I haven't. I mean, we've talked about just like what would need to happen in that time frame. But as far as specifics of things, no, he has all of it in a specific location, and he's just made sure that me and my sisters and my mom and Uncle Mark know where that location is, so we can get it at whatever point in time we need to.
One of the things that could be helpful is managing whatever your grandpa leaves to your mother, so that she's not in charge of it completely. Because, like for instance, you were talking about how you gave her $1,000 for the house and the car, and she lost them both. So she's demonstrated, not just through that decision, but through other financial decisions, that she's not able to manage money well.
Correct.
And so maybe talking to him in that sense of being able to, like your mom would still have whatever he leaves her, but you manage the money side of it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I don't think my mom would go for that. I don't know if I would want that responsibility.
Or delegate it out to
Yeah.
your uncle.
Yeah. I think as much as my grandpa probably would be okay with a decision like that, I think that he doesn't want my mom or my uncle to feel like he's stepping his bounds by putting one of his grandkids in charge of her parent and her uncle with those kinds of things. So, because he's been pretty much a parent to me, just like he was to my mom and my uncle, since he's always taken care of us and like me and my sisters, and always been there to support us when our mom couldn't. So.
And this uncle, this is your uncle on
My mom's
his
side.
relative mom,
Mhm.
right? So he's the son of your grandpa.
Mhm.
And so would he not feel comfortable just leaving everything to the son, since the son
Oh
is
God, that would cause a big, I think, blow up with my mom. My grandpa, he's very straightforward with people, but then he also kind of, depending on what the topic is, I guess, he kind of likes to take the path of least resistance. And if he were to leave everything to my uncle, I think it would, in the midst of a situation like that with the death of somebody, I think it would blow up into a situation that would be really inappropriate and probably unnecessary. So I figured, like I said, I think he's just splitting everything between the two of them, however they want to do that, I guess. But I mean, really the only thing that he has that's of really any value is his house, and then just the contents of what's inside and his car and stuff. But I mean, his car is not, they're fantastic. It's
So
just,
it's just a regular old coffee.
well, it's not a clunker, but I mean, it's not like a Mercedes or anything. It's,
Right.
it's just a regular, normal Joe Blow car.
Maybe since we know that this is maybe not on the horizon, but still something that's in the future, maybe, how do you feel about sort of preparing your mom financially wise for whenever this does happen? Like, maybe setting her up with, taking classes on skills on how to manage your money or something like
I don't think she'd do it.
that.
No, I think she would be receptive to the idea of it, but following through with it, I don't think she would
Should typically not follow through with goals that she sets for herself or
do.
things that other people says she should look into?
Yes, I don't know if she really does an awful lot of goal setting for herself, to be honest. But like I said, when I've given her encouragement or advice or about certain things that can be beneficial for her, I don't think she's ever followed through with any of that.
How does it make you feel to know that here you are trying to help your mom? She doesn't seem as willing to put the effort in that you're putting effort in to try and help her.
Annoyed and frustrated because I'm the kid and she's the parent, and it should be the other way around. But I can't change her, so it is what it is.
When you talk to your uncle and try and pick his brain on how to solve this whole situation.
No, a lot, this whole topic isn't really something that gets discussed very often just because of everything everybody has going on presently in their lives. So, like my uncle, he's worried about his job because the people who own the company he's working for just like sold out to somebody else one day and didn't tell any of the employees. And then they lied about how these new people came to be the owners, but they didn't tell them they were the owners, and then they found out after those people left. And so, like, the new people that are owning it are slowly trying to weed out people that they don't feel like fit whatever their agenda is. And so my uncle's more worried about focusing on what he's gonna do for work. He still has a job, he still, goes to work every day, but he feels like at any moment they just be like, we don't really want you here anymore. And him have to quit, but he's been talking to this company that he's contracted with he used to work for them a long, long time ago when I was a little kid. Anthony's contracted with them for probably at least 15 years, just doing side work for them, and so he's talking to them about becoming just a regular employee with them. And so if his current job doesn't work out, he's gonna do that. So his focus is on, trying to get all that squared away and making sure all his financial obligations are taken care of if something were to happen, and he had to make that transition.
At this point in time, your uncle in some sort of manager position?
I guess. I mean, he's an IT person. He does computer programming and drafting, and he's currently the IT person. And he was explaining to me recently that, like, if there's a certain amount of people under him, that they need additional extra people per however many people that are under him. And so he was like explaining that to his boss, and his boss was like, nope, it doesn't need to be like that. And so it's like he's left to be in charge of probably 4 or 5 times the amount of work that he's supposed to be in charge of, given whatever that ratio was that he was telling me about. And so he's like stretched to the max at work, and is just trying to figure out how to deal with all of that.
Is there nothing within the company that he could sort of throw towards your mom's way? Like some sort of entry-level position?
Probably not. No. Well, in fact, he doesn't feel like he's gonna be working for the company very much longer anyway. So I don't think, even if there was, I don't think that he would offer that to my mom or encourage her to look into it, because if it's something that he doesn't want to do, I don't think he's one of those people that wouldn't have people he cares about get into something like that and be like, oh, see you later. So. But my mom's not a very computer literate person, so she would need probably to go to school and take computer classes like we talked before to be able to do anything like that.
How close is the relationship between your uncle and your mom?
Well, since my grandma died, it's been closer just because everybody's been kind of closer since that was in January. So the last few months they've been a little bit better, but over the years it's been very up and down. Sometimes they would be like get along fine, and other times they were kind of horrible to each other. Like at one point, again, another poor financial decisions, and my mom was living with my uncle and his ex-wife, not his past relationship he was in, but the previous one when he was married. And then remember what happened, and something blew up between them and all my uncle. My uncle threw all of her shit out in the front yard. And it was like, this is my house, if you're not gonna do whatever, then you can leave. And he threw her stuff out. So that's probably the biggest blow up that I can remember between them, and then they just kind of had a neutral relationship. Not either one of them really put in a whole lot of effort either direction to either make it worse or make it better. So.
You said that when your mom died, everybody sort of came together.
When my grandma died.
Yeah, your grandma died. When she died, they sort of came together.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You think the same thing will happen when your grandpa dies?
Yeah, I think it'll probably be, people will probably work more together, I hope, whenever we cross that bridge, just because he's been the foundation for everybody.
Do you think by the time that your grandpa passes, do you think your uncle will be more settled, so that he might be more open to taking it on?
God, I don't know. I mean, and my grandpa will be 85 in a couple of weeks. I mean, for his age, he's like in really good health. I would think he's very.
And seeing as how somebody dropped a tractor on him, he doesn't break his bones. It seems like he has a bit more mileage on it.
Yeah, he definitely does. I mean, he does everything himself. So I really hope he lives like another 20 years. That would be amazing. I mean, if it's a few years down the road, I think my uncle will. If it's some horrible catastrophe happened in like a week, then I don't know. But I mean, people do what they'll have to do, and if that's something that my uncle felt strongly enough that he would be willing to help out my mom in that way if necessary, then he might. But I mean, right now it's like my mom's able to pay like her bills enough to stay where she's at, so hopefully that doesn't have to be on anybody's mind anytime soon. But I don't know, just see how it works out.
So let's brainstorm worst case scenario.
Okay.
Whenever your grandpa finally passes,
Mm-hmm.
your mom's left a bit of money. And then she does okay for a while, but then soon that money's all gone.
Yeah.
Do you think that she's gonna be able to pull you and your sister and your uncle into helping her like she has done in the past?
I really hope that if whatever she's left in the future, if there is a monetary amount, that she will be smart and figure out how to manage it to where it doesn't run out quickly. That's the optimistic hope. I don't know how realistic that is. I think that she probably would try to figure out the best way she could to try to make us feel guilty enough to where we would give it to help her. Because she's been very good in the past about trying to apply guilt trips to people. And that's been really frustrating. Definitely said some things it probably shouldn't have in those time periods, but I don't think it's appropriate to really to guilt trip your kids into things.
How does it feel to be guilt tripped right
I'll just it makes me angry. You know, I mean, the biggest thing that I can think of that she's guilt tripped me about is, I think I mentioned it a couple of times ago, that when her and my dad were at each other and they didn't get along, I kind of sided with my dad, and she called me a traitor and told me I betrayed her, and it was just very hateful to me. And it's like, I don't know what you want me to tell you if I don't agree with what you're doing, you know? And so whenever she makes me feel like that, like I said, that's been the biggest time. But whenever she makes me feel like that and tries to guilt trip me, I just stop talking to her, because I'm not going to put myself in a position to be treated a way that I don't agree with. And so I'll just cut it off until it can be neutralized somehow.
Have you brought up with mom how her guilt tripping you makes you feel?
She hasn't done it to me in a long time. But with that situation, I absolutely have. And I told her that she was being a crazy bitch, and I thought that she didn't deserve to treat us the way she was. I can understand her being angry, but you know, to make your kids feel horrible because they don't believe something that you're doing is, I don't think, appropriate. So she doesn't have to agree with my decision or my thought process about it, but to make me feel bad about it is something that I definitely voice my opinion about. She just kind of takes it and moves on. She might be upset, she might cry, she could be pissed off. I really didn't care.
I think that her willingness and seemingly how adept she is at utilizing guilt tripping is something that causes her to think that she don't have to take any responsibility for hardly anything, because she can guilt trip anybody into doing anything she wants.
I think she could think that she's able to guilt trip people. I mean, depending on whatever the situation is that she's trying to manipulate. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then like the intensity of it, like sometimes might just give in to help with something, but I'm not gonna like go completely overboard, you know, and that's actually like an area that my husband and I have had several arguments about over our relationship and the length of our relationship. And you know, he feels like that he doesn't want me to put out the effort to figure out how to help her until she figures out how to help herself, which I completely understand and agree with that mindset. But then at the same time, it's like if she's such in a bad position, I don't want something horrible to happen to her and know that I could have done something to help the outcome be different.
You think that her counting on you having that feeling that I'm not going to let anything bad happen to my mom is what sort of allows her to have this carefree thinking when it comes to big tough decisions like, you know, money, where she's going to live, and what's going to happen after Grandpa goes and picks them up.
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, maybe, but I mean, there's like some things, like over the years, like if she's been in a real big financial crunch, and because my husband and I have always been financially stable, and if I've had the opportunity to help and I thought I could, then sometimes I'd offer, and if my husband didn't agree with that, that would be something I would have to deal with on my own. But I mean, if I felt like I could, I have in some instances with different family members, because again, I've been the one who's been pretty much stable in that. So between my sisters and both of my parents, I've definitely helped them in more ways than they've helped me. And sometimes I think that my family knows that I can, and so they do come to me instead of figuring out what other options they can pursue or working harder on their end to figure something out instead of just asking somebody for help, you know?
So it sounds like it's not just your mom that comes to you for help, but
No.
everybody comes to Megan because Megan's loaded.
Yeah, loaded. That I wish I was loaded. I've been more successful, I guess. I mean, besides my grandpa, I'm the only one who's gone to college. And my family, I think my uncle did, when TCC was TJC a million years ago, he went there, I think, for a little bit. I don't know if he ever graduated or whatever, but, and so I'm the only one who's like done things to work towards an end goal to have some kind of accomplishment, you know. So I think the fact that people know I'm persistent and will follow through with things, and my history shows that they feel like I'm probably the most reliable person they can come to, that if we're in a bind, well, I'll ask Megan because she's helped in the past.
Sounds like heaven is the crown. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and my husband hates it. That creates so many issues sometimes, because he tells me all the time that I let my family use me, which, I mean, I guess depending on how you look at it, that's how it could be seen. But I've become more, I don't know, been able to tell people no, I guess, over the past few years, better than I had previously. Just because, you know, after we moved back from Germany, we were trying to settle and, you know, bought a house and had to get a car because we only had his car when we came back, and just having to get a new job and just reorienting our life at a different pace, since it wasn't going to be focused around the military anymore, and it would be focused around what I have to do so he can go to school and do his thing to figure out what he wants to finish for school and stuff. So our priorities have shifted, you know, over the past few years and what I did previously.
How much is how much, if any, of these problems of your husband viewing you as pretty much the one that everybody comes to for help? How much of a problem is that in your relationship?
It's been a big problem over the years, yeah, because I've always been a helper for everybody. So that's created a lot of,
I'll explain why you're that.
maybe, I don't know. It's always what I wanted to do, so here I am with it. But it's created a lot of problems, definitely a lot of conflicts. You know, I mean, in the end, you know, my husband and I have been able to figure out decisions, whether one of us is having a compromise and the other one being pissed off, or however it worked out. But it's definitely been a roadblock a lot in our relationships, and especially when we were in Germany, like, it wasn't a big issue per se, but like my mom needed to have surgery for something, and she didn't have the money to do it, and she didn't have insurance, and I was like, oh my God, like, and it was something that really impacts her health. And I was like, can we just send her the money so she can get this, so like something bad doesn't happen? And my husband wouldn't let me do it, and so I was pretty frustrated about it, because he's like, she needs to figure out what she can do to come up with that money instead of, and she didn't ask me to help, but she like worded it in a way that would make me feel sorry for her, having that sympathy to want to help her. And to this day, like, because we lived in Germany from 2009 to 2012, and that was probably, I don't know, maybe 2010, 2011 when she told me that. And here it is 2015 and she still hasn't had this surgery done because she doesn't have the money to do it. And so, I don't know if it contributes to other health problems she has, but I'm just like, I worry that if I don't help her, like if something bad could happen because she can't figure out how to help herself.
I feel anybody else would ever swoop into the rescue, so it's just like you all the time, maybe
My grandpa?
voicing